I'm excited to be here to be presenting for IMSTA FESTA online. In this presentation, I'll be going over Komplete Control. I'll show you the basic functionality of it, how to load an instrument, find your presets, but mainly what I want to talk about is how to best utilize Komplete Control to organize all of your presets, your loops, and your samples and really get the most out of the plugin, more than just using it as a tool to load instruments. For me, whenever I want to use a new instrument, I always load up Komplete Control first. I've definitely wasted a lot of time having folders of samples, one-shots and loops on my desktop, and just kind of aimlessly scrolling through the list, trying to find the right sound. So with a little bit of effort, you can really use Komplete Control to organize everything that you have. So let's just jump right into it. So the first question you might have is, what is Komplete Control? So Komplete Control is a plugin that, again, organizes all of your instruments, effects, your loops, your samples. And this works with, any DAW that supports plugins. So this works with all of the NI instruments and NI effects. But what it also does is work with a lot of other plugins from different companies. So companies like Arturia, Output, Yuhi, all of their products are supported in Komplete Control, and we call these NKS instruments. So there's, again, tons of different companies that their products are fully integrated into our Komplete Control ecosystem. So you're able to easily find the presets, filter your presets list for these non-NI instruments. Komplete Control also has, an audio engine, a built-in sampler, and also a scales mode, chords mode, and an arpeggiator. And all of these functions, you can use them with the NKS instruments, NI instruments, but even things like the scales and chords mode can actually work with instruments that aren't fully supported with Komplete Control. And in the presentation, I'll show you how to go about loading these instruments inside of this plugin. Now, if you're using one of our Komplete Control keyboards, you definitely have the best type of integration when it comes to hardware and software and that relationship. But with an update to Komplete Control, we basically have the ability now to MIDI map generic MIDI controllers to Komplete Control. You can't MIDI map everything, but in terms of scrolling through your presets list, tweaking parameters, all of that can be mapped to a MIDI controller. So again, I always use Komplete Control no matter what instrument I'm loading, and it has definitely improved my workflow. Now, Komplete Control is free. If you own a version of Komplete, like Komplete 13 Select or higher, or even previous versions, you already have Komplete Control. Now, again, Komplete Control is free, so if you go to the Komplete Control product page, you can click this free download button, and Komplete Start, which is our free software bundle, will be added to your account, which Komplete Control is included in that. So again, you don't even have to own any NI products, but you are able to get Komplete Control to use to organize everything that you have. So that's kind of a general overview of Komplete Control. So let's jump into actually showing you how it works. So Komplete Control is a plugin, works with any DAW, but for this presentation, I'm going to be doing this inside of Logic. So I have a blank instance of Logic open, and I want to load the first instance of Komplete Control. So from here, I have software instrument, and I have Komplete Control here. I'll choose stereo, and then click create. So what we're looking at here is kind of the main default window of Komplete Control. On the left-hand side here, this is your browser area where you'll be finding your instruments, your loops, and your one-shots, as well as your user library, which is where we'll be saving all of my loops and samples folders, my presets for various instruments as well. This is the filtering system, so you can refine your presets list, letting you find the particular sound that you're looking for quickly. And you can also do this with all of your one-shots and your loops, and I'll be showing you how to start tagging your samples. And then on the right-hand side here, this is where the instrument gets loaded. and where you can start, tweaking and customizing the parameters of an instrument that you have loaded. So first thing I want to do is just, lay down a very basic pattern and also just load my first instrument. So to access my instruments, I click on the All Instruments area here. And now what we're seeing are all of the individual products that come with Komplete. But as I scroll down further, you'll start seeing other plugins from different companies, such as Arturia, Audio Imperia. I have Heaviosity, Spitfire. Again, there's hundreds of instruments that are supported, and they all show up in this nice browser area. They look just like NI instruments as well. But anything that is supported in Komplete Control can take advantage of the filtering system and preset, loading presets from the browser as well. So first thing I want to load is something from Battery here. So I'll find Battery and click on it. Now, one thing that a lot of people don't notice is there's this section called All Banks. Now, when I click on it, these are all of the different expansions that I have installed. So expansions used to only work with machine software, but we basically updated them. So now you can use them in a wide range of ways. You can still load them in machine. You also have access to the raw audio files for the loops and the one-shots, but all of the kits that were inside of machine are now available in Battery as well. So if I choose an expansion here, let's say Lone Forest, everything that you see here are all of the different kits. There's audio previews for every kit as well, so you're able to hear what the preset sounds like without actually having to load it. So if I click on a preset here, all right, so that one sounds cool. So what I'll do is just double click on it to load the kit. And there we go. Lower the volume a little bit. So once the kit loads, you'll see I have a 4x4 grid with all of the samples from this kit. So let's just record a very basic pattern to begin with. Quantize. Perfect. All right, so I have a very basic pattern. And what I can do is I can start loading other kits from this from the browser section. It will keep the same pattern, but just swap out the sounds. Now, if you only want to change, a couple sounds in this kit, like a kick drum or the snare, you can do that by going to the one-shots icon in Komplete Control. So if I click on the one-shots and the all one-shots area, you can now see all of the expansions that I have installed. So if I click on something like, let's say Gray Forge, from here, these are all of the one-shots within this expansion. Now, there's a lot of samples in here. So what I can do is use the filtering system to further refine the sample list. So I want to replace this snare. So what I'll do is I'm going to go to drums and then choose, let's say, a clap. And now all that I have in this presets list or the samples list are clap sounds. I like this one. So all I need to do is click and drag it to the cell that I want to replace. And now we can hear. So I can start doing this with all the other cells if I wanted to. Maybe the kick drum is a little too intense, so I'll just choose kick and drop it over. Perfect. So I can do this with all of the expansions, but if I start scrolling a little bit further down in this list, what you'll notice is I have this other area, sounds.com. So sounds.com integrates with Machine and Complete Control. So for example, I have this collection up on the page here. It's 808, and all I need to do is click the triangle here and say to NI apps. And what will happen in the background is this collection will be downloaded, and after a couple minutes, it will show up in the browser section under One Shots and Complete Control. So any of the samples that I've downloaded from Sounds, I have access to within inside of Complete Control. So I can click on any of these, collections, and then just drag them into Complete Control. So you have an easy way to access all of the samples from Sounds and from the expansions. Now, I built this kit, I like it, and I want to save it for, a future project. So what I'll do is click the triangle icon, go to File, Save As, and I will name it Brian's Favorite Kit. And now to find this, I will go back to the user icon here, click the keys, which is the all instruments, and now we can see I have battery, and there is there's the kit that I just saved, Brian's Favorite Kit. So if I double click it, I can now load it into back into battery. So having access to the expansions and all the Sounds.com stuff is great, but chances are you also have additional folders with loops and one-shots that you've downloaded from online. So you can manually add these folders into Complete Control and actually start tagging all of these samples. So to do this, I will click the triangle, go to Edit, and then Preferences, and then the Library tab. So the factory section is where all the libraries for the main instruments, everything from NI and any plugin that I've installed. So what I want to do is go to the user area here. Now down at the bottom, you would just click Add, and then you would navigate to wherever the folder is for the samples you want to add. So in this case, I'll choose drum one shots. I'll hit choose, and then I'll hit rescan. And this will scan that folder and just make sure that those sample references get added into Complete Control. And let's just do one more here. I'll do drum loops, choose, rescan. And now I can close out of this window. So if I go back to the user icon and click on One Shots, here are the two folders that I just added, drum loops and drum one shots. So if I click on drum one shots, now I have access to all of the samples that are within that folder. Now on my desktop or in Finder, I have my main root level folder, drum one shots, but then I have two subfolders within my main folder. And to access that, I would go to the all banks area, just like we did with battery. So if I click all banks, these are all of the subfolders that I have within the drum one shots folder. So what I can do is click on claps, and now I have access to an additional level down below for my sub banks. So from here, I can choose big claps, and now I'm seeing all of the clap sounds within the big claps folder. And if I click on any of these samples, you will hear the audio preview just like we did for the battery kit. So I like this one. Let's drag it here. And, can choose anything that I want. So I don't necessarily have to drag it into battery if I want. I can always just take the preset or the sample name here and just drag it directly into my DAW and start working with the sample that way. Now, having these subfolders is helpful, but let's say you have 100 custom user folders and over 1,000 different claps. What you can do is actually tag these samples so you can use the filtering system just like we did with the expansions. So to do this, I can click on a sample, I will do Command A to select all. And then down below, I will click the Edit button. And then this is where I can start tagging the type of sound and its characteristics. So we know that these are drums. So for the types, I will choose drums. And this is labeled a flam clap. So I can just see in the characteristics, or actually, sorry, the types, this is a clap. We'll go to characters and then scroll down. So if the type of clap that you have in here isn't in this list here, what I can do is click the plus sign and actually create my own. So I can say flam clap. And now it gets checked. And what's important is you want to click apply. So everything, all of the tagging system, everything gets saved to the sample. And I can close out of edit. So now let's just go to my all one shots and say I'm looking for drums, and let's go to flam claps. And now I'm seeing all of my flam claps. So again, you can imagine if you have a ton of custom sample folders, it can be this enormous list. So again, spending some time and tagging the characteristics of your samples will help you in the long run to be able to find the type of clap or any sound that you're looking for quickly. By default, all of these samples, whether it's a loop or a one-shot, all of these custom folders get added to the one-shots tab. So what you can do is go back to all one-shots, and let's say these are drum loops. I can select everything. I'll go to edit, and under general, I will say the content type is loop and click apply. So again, it's adding this loop tag to all of the samples that I have selected. And now these loops aren't going to be in the one-shots icon, but they will actually now show up in the loops section. So it's now re-importing the samples. You can see it's a very fast process. All set. So now if I go back to loops, there's my drum loops. And then from here, I can drag them into Logic, or if I want, I can double click these loops and then load them into the audio engine inside of Komplete Control. And what's pretty cool is any of these loops that you have here, if you click on them, they will actually automatically play in sync with your project's BPM. So if you're working on a track that's 80 BPM and you have a sample that's 100 BPM, Komplete Control will actually slow it down so you have a better idea of how this sample loop will sound in the context of your project. So again, any of these things, like the samples that I dragged into Battery, you just want to make sure that after you've constructed your kit, you would save them to Komplete Control. So that's basically how to add the custom folders to Komplete Control. Now we'll just jump over to the instrument side, and I'll show you how to load instruments and also load non-NKS instruments as well. So I'm going to click out of the user area and go to instruments, and the filtering works across all of my instruments. So I can search across every plugin that's supported and say I'm looking for a brass sound that's a synth. And then all of these presets down below will match these characteristics. So the first preset that I load could be something from Reactor, and the next preset down could be something from Contact. So this is a great way to search by the sound that you're looking for, rather than loading a plugin and searching through all of the presets, essentially wasting time. If I click on all instruments, again, it brings up all of my individual plugins. And if I scroll down to Massive, for example, I also have an all banks. So a lot of the expansions also have Massive presets included. So rather than having a folder of all your Massive presets, you can easily search and find them quickly within Komplete Control. So I can choose, let's say, Cavern Floor, and I also have the filtering system. So I'm looking for a synth lead, that is tempo synced, and here's the preset that matches that. So what we're seeing is a condensed view of Massive. So if you just click the plus icon here, you can now see the full version of Massive, which lets you start tweaking all of the parameters. So, let's say I've customized the sound. I can go back to the top, say File, Save As, and I can say Sub Bass. Don't know what it sounds like, but you can name it whatever you want. And now if I go back to the user icon, here's Massive, and there's the preset that I've created. If you ever want to delete a preset, you can just right click on it and say delete, and then it gets removed from your user preset list. So, loading supported instruments is great, but chances are you also have a lot of other plugins that aren't supported in Komplete Control. So a very popular one is Serum, for example. Now, you can still manually load these instruments within the Komplete Control plugin. And the benefit for this is you can then take advantage of its scale mode, its arpeggiator, and also its chords mode as well. So to load a non-supported instrument, what you can do is at the top here, click the triangle, the drop down, and then these are all the companies whose products that I can add inside of Komplete Control. So I can choose, let's say, Serum. And now Serum is loaded inside of Komplete Control. And then from here, I can, change the presets just like I normally would if I was loading loading Serum by itself. Now, I mentioned before, every parameter for every supported instrument is already mapped for you. So what you can do is create your own custom mappings with non-supported plugins. And to do that, you would click the icon here, and then it brings up all of the knobs that you can map to various parameters inside of Serum and all the different pages that you have access to. So Komplete Control does this mapping automatically, but there's no sense of like organization with how it gets auto mapped. So for example, the very first knob that we see here controls master volume. Chances are you don't need to have that parameter mapped to a particular knob. So if you want to change it, you would just click the lock icon, and then you can click the drop down and choose which parameter you want to have it control. So for example, I could choose filter cutoff, and now if I tweak the knob, you can see that it's moving down here on the right. And now I can do this for the rest of the knobs and also the pages, but one thing you can do to really speed up the workflow is by clicking this icon. I can then simply just click on the knob that I want to control, and it starts mapping it to the 8 knobs here. So I can say detune, let's do blend, resonance, pan, and this decay knob, and 2 more just for fun. And now that I'm done, I can start changing the knobs, and you can see the parameters are being changed on Serum. You can also rename the parameters as well. So if I don't want this to be, a unison detune, I can just write detune, and then it gets renamed. So in the software, you'll be able to see this, but if you're using something like the Komplete Control S series keyboard, this word detune will actually show up on the display. So it might take a little bit of time to start mapping all of the parameters, but at least then you would have direct control and not have to use your mouse to tweak all of these parameters here. Now, let's say I've designed the sound and I want to save it for a future project. Just like we did with battery, I can go to File, Save As, and I can say Lead Synth. And if we go back to the user icon and click on All Instruments, there you go, there's Serum. And then there's the preset that I've loaded. So even if you just have an initial patch from a synth that's not supported, you can save the initial patch, and then you can kind of bypass the clicking the arrow and selecting the plugin you want. So for example, I have Omnisphere. I can just click on it, double click this preset, and now Omnisphere loads within. Now Omnisphere loads with inside of Komplete Control. So again, having the S series keyboards or any Komplete Control keyboard, these knobs will be auto mapped, or sorry, these knobs you can control directly from the hardware automatically. There's no additional setup needed. At the beginning of the presentation, I mentioned that you do have the ability to map this to any generic keyboard or just any generic MIDI controller that's able to send and receive MIDI. So to do this, you would be using this little area up here. So I have the 49 keyboard connected right now, but if I unplug it, or if I have a generic keyboard connected, it changes to MIDI. So clicking on MIDI now brings up the MIDI mapping options for Komplete Control. So I have the 8 knobs here and also buttons. So the knobs let you control the 8 knobs that we were just mapping, and then the buttons area lets you map the preset up and down function. So if you had 100 presets on the list in the left, you can just press a button on your controller and it will start cycling down your list and then loading the next preset. And in the plugins area, if you noticed, we have multiple pages worth of parameters to customize. So you can map a left and a right arrow, or just any left and right button to navigate through those different pages. So that is a general overview of Komplete Control and how to use it to organize your loops and your samples, and also non-supported Komplete Control instruments. So hopefully this gives you a little bit better understanding of how you can best utilize this plugin to speed up your workflow. And thank you for watching, and have a great IMSTA FESTA.